Hello and welcome. Thank you for listening. My name is Sarah Baumert. I'm a yoga teacher, Feldenkrais practitioner, and host of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. The Sarah B. Yoga podcast and my practice, Body Matter, is an interdisciplinary learning space where we explore the many ways that movement can help facilitate body acceptance and awareness, reduce pain and stress, regulate the nervous system, and build strength and ease. My teaching plays with the synthesis of Feldenkrais Awareness Through Movement lessons, traditional yoga asana, creative imagery, breathing exercises, self-massage, and a compassionate mindset to help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. Sarah B. Yoga and Body Matter have a lot of other program offerings. These podcasts are just a taste of my teaching. Each week I teach a range of online classes, including a gentle yoga class, a level 2 class for more advanced students, and Feldenkrais classes with monthly themes, anatomy lessons, and Q&A sessions for more in-depth study. I have 2 new online series offerings for the fall. A Feldenkrais series titled Coming to Your Senses, an exploration of the spaces of the eyes, the mouth, jaw, ears, vocal, and breathing apparatus. And my second course, Wakeful Body, the blending of yoga and Feldenkrais on Monday nights. As one student recently described Monday nights, that felt like I just gave myself a massage. So these fall classes will be a continuation of some fan favorite stretching sequences that incorporate bolsters and other props to enhance the poses. There is still plenty of time to join these courses live or via the course recordings. You can find more information about these offerings in the show notes. Okay, on to today's episode. Thank you so much for listening.
And as you're in down dog, feeling what part of your torso, your back, your front, would appreciate your breath.
Hello, and welcome to episode 61 of the Sarah B. Yoga podcast. I'm Sarah Baumert, your host and teacher. I teach a slow, alignment-based yoga practice influenced by my training in the Feldenkrais method. Today's class is titled Spinal Explorations. This is a Feldenkrais-inspired class, and as many of you know, I also teach the Feldenkrais method. And this is an example of my blended yoga and Feldenkrais classes. Each of these classes is infused with a more traditional yoga asana practice with the Feldenkrais Awareness Through Movement method. You can think of it as an interdisciplinary excursion of yoga, Feldenkrais, self-massage, breathing exercises, movement puzzles, all with a compassionate mindset, something that will help you feel a greater sense of ease and comfort in yourself. In this class, we start with a longer somatic exploration using a blanket roll for support. This will help you feel and soften your spine. It's a level 1-2 class. And at the end of class, there are a number of concepts that are brought together to create a continuous moving backbend practice. This is meant to move in and out of and to slowly repeat, just as you might do in a Feldenkrais class. So we will make a single blanket roll or a cylinder. We'll use a looped strap and 2 blocks. For my schedule of live online classes on Zoom and my self-paced yoga and Feldenkrais courses that include video, you can find more about those at my website, body-matter.com. These classes are a free resource and free from any ads. There is a link in the show notes if you would like to donate to help keep these podcasts coming. Okay, let's get started.
Okay. Welcome, everyone. So why don't you grab your blanket, and you're going to make a roll, a cylinder with it, as we've done in some previous classes. You want the cylinder to be, around 3 or 4 inches in diameter. I have this foam roller. This is a soft roller. If you happen to have a soft roller that's smaller in size, you could also use that. That's an option. You might like it better. But yeah, just if you happen to have that, you could have that nearby. Otherwise, this blanket roll is what I'll be using as I demonstrate. And then you can just have your strap kind of up towards the top of your mat for later. Great. Okay, so go ahead and just set your rolled up blanket kind of out of your way for right now, and come down to lie onto your back. If it is okay for you to have your legs long, do that here at the beginning. Let the arms rest alongside the body. And just feel the natural releasing, kind of dropping open of your legs. Let them feel gravity. Just feel the whole back of the body, how it's cradled, held by the floor. You're, of course, welcome to close your eyes. Sense the heavy parts of you. And I'm going to help you kind of tune into some particular areas. Notice the weight of your pelvis. And you can notice particular things if you feel more weight is shifted towards one side, or just the general sense of your pelvis being held by the floor. And then from your pelvis, scan up towards your lower back, and notice with your legs long, is your lower back touching the floor, or is there some amount of lift? If you're curious, you can also bring your hand to that area, and without changing it, just feel if there's a little lift, what kind of space is there and how you can sense that. And then up from the low back, sense the way that your ribs meet the floor. And maybe that helps you start to become more aware of your breathing, any kind of movement that's coming from your breath. And as you settle, moment by moment, you might also feel that some of the tone in the muscles starts to soften because your nervous system is realizing that you're lying on the floor and you don't have to work quite as hard. And then scanning up from your ribs and your upper back all the way up towards your neck, feeling this amount of space between the floor and the back of the neck. And then sense the weight of your head, and right where the back of your head meets the floor, the heaviness of your skull. And then just draw your attention back to your lower back and slowly bend your knees and stand your feet, and have your feet about hips distance, feet underneath the knees. And once you're there, feel now this curve or arch of your lower back, and just notice if it changed at all now that your feet are standing. And do you like it? Is it more comfortable? Is it less comfortable? And then bring one hand to your chest. It could be on sternum, it could be higher than that, and one hand down to your belly. And begin to take a breath in, letting your abdomen expand. And the movement of your abdomen expanding or coming forward towards the hand that's on your belly, that is a result of your diaphragm pressing downward. And exhale naturally as you need to. And do that a few times, feeling what it's like to expand your belly when you breathe in. And the expansion may not only be a forward action, you may also feel that there's an expansion backward and out towards your sides, towards the sides of the waist. Not forcing anything. It could just be a gentle invitation to let the belly expand when you breathe in. Great. Now, sense the hand that's on your chest. As you breathe in, can you expand towards the hand that's on your chest? And just exhale when you need to. So feeling now, as we inhale, we're expanding higher up so that the hand that's on the chest responds. And you may feel that the hand that's on the belly sinks a little bit. It's a different kind of muscular action for the diaphragm. You're breathing in. And the diaphragm is widening a bit more than pressing down towards your pelvis to create that expansion up in your chest. If it's hard for you to feel this, when you breathe in, just pull your belly in a little bit. And that will restrict the diaphragm from moving down and create the expansion more in your chest. Good. And then see if you can just transition and breathe in and let your belly expand. Remember what that feels like. And breathe out when you need to. And then breathe in and fill your chest rather than your belly. And breathe out when you need to. Okay, so those are some options. We're going to keep expanding those options. Just bring your arms down, rest for a moment, and breathe as you want to. So our diaphragm is a muscle, and depending on whatever situation or muscular configuration we're in, it adapts, and it can really shape the torso in all sorts of different ways. So now take your right arm overhead so it's on the floor. It doesn't have to be really close to your right ear. It can just be comfortable, but resting on the floor with your right palm up. And bring your right hand to the right side of your chest. It could be even kind of near the armpit. And now as you breathe in, bring your attention to the right side of your chest and see if you can expand the right side of your chest more than the left side of your chest. So some of this is imagination and your attention. And you just breathe out when you need to. So you inhale, imagining there's a deflated balloon right in the right shoulder or in the right chest that you're filling when you breathe in. And just notice if it affects your right arm. Can you feel the right arm maybe getting a little bit longer? Noticing if if this is a challenge, if it's hard to feel that you can expand through the right side a little bit more. Okay, let your right arm come down, bring your left arm down, just pause for a moment and feel the two sides of your chest. Bring your left arm overhead on the floor with the left palm up and take your right hand somewhere. It could be across the left collarbone, near the armpit. And you can start to shift that right hand also. That right hand is just this outside feedback for you, external feedback. So as you breathe in, can you direct the expansion into the left side of the chest, as if the breath is filling the left shoulder, the left lung expands fully. The left ribs may feel a bit more movement. Just notice what's possible to sense for you. Not judging if this feels slightly challenging. And notice if your left arm is affected at all. Soften in the face and the jaw. Great. And let that release. Take both arms down. Now cross your left ankle onto your right thigh for the figure 4 position. So your left knee will be pointed to the left. And take your right arm overhead on the floor again with the right palm facing up. And slowly begin to tilt your legs to the left. And then bring the legs back to center. It doesn't need to be as far as you can go or fast. We'll repeat that action a few times, but you're not trying to get in as many repetitions as possible. And as you tilt your legs to the left, you can let your right hip leave the floor and feel how your right thigh bone reaches a little bit. It's a little bit longer. Maybe it feels like it's pulling away from the right side of the belly. And as you tip your legs to the left, and you breathe in and just breathe in. Just see what wants to expand. As you bring the legs back to center, breathe out. Great. While the knees tip to the left, notice what's happening to the right side of the chest. Does the right side of the chest get pulled slightly? Does it get pulled longer in some way? A sort of sense of length on the right side body. And then just adding a little bit more here as you tilt your legs to the left, allow your right arm to lengthen along the floor, just the smallest amount. So you feel this line of length through the whole right side. And then when the legs come back to the center, you can let go of that reaching of the right arm. So when the legs tilt to the left, there's this sense of length coming into the right side of the body. And you'll feel your back is arching a little bit. Okay, let that release. Bring your right arm down, uncross your left foot. Pause for a moment with the 2 feet standing. And cross your right ankle onto your left thigh. Take your left arm overhead. And slowly begin to tilt your knees, your legs to the right, and then return back to center. And really approaching this side as it's a whole new thing. Feeling the first and second time that you do it, what's new, what's different about this side. And you can really let the pelvis roll to the right so that the left hip leaves the floor. And get a sense of the left thigh bone gently lengthening away from the belly as you tip the knees to the right. Great. And just careful that it's not about using the weight of your right leg to push the left leg down. We're looking a little bit more for a sense of reaching away from the belly. And breathing in when you tilt the knees to the right. Allowing your back to arch. And as you tilt your knees to the right, can you feel the left arm lengthen? Just a small amount. Just invite the left arm to get a little bit longer as you tilt the legs to the right. Great. And come back to the middle, uncross the legs. Okay, now find your rolled up blanket. And we're going to take that blanket right underneath the sacrum. So it'll be across the pelvis. Not at the very top part of the pelvis, but kind of right in the middle of the pelvis. Okay, now just tilt, your feet are still standing, tilt your legs, your knees to the left about 5 or 10 degrees, so not a lot. And then press your right foot a little deeper into the floor. You could imagine somebody is holding your right knee and they just gently pull your right thigh bone a little bit longer or away from your belly. And your right hip might lift and you'll feel the right side of your low back arch slightly. So just feel that sense of, oh, okay, that right leg's getting a little bit longer. And then bring everything back to the middle. And just do that a few times. So the knees tilt about 5 degrees to the left. And that right thigh bone reaches in the direction of the knee. And then you come back to center. And do that a few times, sensing what's happening with your head. How that pull or that lengthening of the right leg, how it pulls through your spine all the way up to your head. And you can play with letting your knees tilt a little bit farther than 5 degrees. But the focus is on the reach of the right thigh and this invitation to open the front of the right hip and an invitation for the lower back to arch. Okay, bring the legs back to the middle for a moment. Pause in the middle. You might feel a little asymmetric after that first side. Just feel how the pelvis settles into the blanket. Take a belly breath for a moment. And then let the knees slowly tilt to the right, about 5 or 10 degrees. And it will be your left leg that then activates. You try to reach the left thigh in the direction of the knee. That's going to pick up the left hip a little bit and bring your back into it. And then slowly come back to the home base. So the legs tilt slightly to the right. Feel the left leg get a little bit longer and feel how that pulls through the spine, how it affects your head. Great. So just feel, we didn't do this on the first side, but just let your head roll to the right when your knees tilt to the right. And let your head roll back to the middle when your knees come to the middle. Good. Come back to the center. Okay, take a hold of the sides of your blanket. Pick your pelvis up, and you're going to shift your blanket up your spine so that the blanket is underneath your lumbar curve. So there may be the very top of the pelvis may be touching some of the blanket, and you're going to feel the lower back arch and the pelvis drapes in the direction of the floor. For some of you, the sitting bones might even touch the floor. So just feeling what this is like for you. We are supporting the lumbar curve that if you sit a lot during the day, for many people who sit a lot during the day, that curve is starting to go away. And we want this curve. We want this curve in our back. So just feel it for a moment. And if for some reason does not feel good for your lower back, slide the blanket a little bit down in the direction of your tail. Okay, so now feel the 2 feet on the floor and push your feet into the floor gently so that you lift your sitting bones slightly away from the floor. And then let your sitting bones drop towards the floor. So you go deeper into the arch, whatever amount's comfortable. And just do that a few times. So it's similar to the rocking of the pelvis that we've done before on the flat surface, but now we have this blanket under the lumbar. Good. Let the belly expand when you breathe in. Great. And then bring your sitting bones so they're a little lifted, so they're not on the floor. And try dropping just your right sitting bone. It's like your right sitting bone is being pulled to the floor. And then it comes back so that the 2 sitting bones are even altitude. So your right sitting bone gets pulled to the floor, and you'll feel that right side of the low back has to arch a little bit more than the left. So try it a few times, just that right sitting bone, that point comes in the direction of the floor, and then you release it. Lower back softening in order to do this. Right, pause in the middle, and then start to take your left sitting bone towards the floor. Feeling the kind of angle that your pelvis has to tilt in to make that happen, and the suppleness required in your lower back. Great. Come to the center. Slowly pick your right foot up, bring your right knee towards your chest, take a hold of it with the 2 hands. And you can start to draw your right knee closer in towards your chest. And when you do that, your pelvis will lift farther away from the floor. Let that happen. And you might feel that there's more pressure going into the blanket. Great. And then move your right knee away from your chest, but keep your hands holding there. And try to tilt the sitting bones towards the floor. And go back and forth like that a few times. So your elbows can bend as you bring your right knee towards your chest and the tailbone lifts. And then as your arms straighten and the knee moves away from you, the tail moves towards the floor. And again, just going through a range that your lower back is appreciating right now. Good. And when your tail moves towards the floor, see what it's like to really expand the belly. Does that help in some way? Great. Slowly let the right foot come back to the floor. Pick up the left foot, take a hold of the left knee so the hands can be at the top of the shin. And first, just draw your left knee in towards your chest. Pause there for a moment, and you can let your pelvis follow your leg. That's right. And then slowly start to tip the pelvis to bring the tail towards the floor. Let the arms straighten and the knee move away from you. Moving through that, bringing the knee towards you and away from you slowly. Again, sensing the way that the back of your head is moving. Maybe it's sliding a little bit up and down. Great. Let that release. Bring your left foot down. So both feet are on the floor. Now, bend your elbows and draw your upper arm bones quite close to you. So your elbows are kind of close to your waist, and your elbows might even touch the blanket. Kind of depends on your proportion. And we're going to use robot arms, the robot arm position. So your fingers are pointing upward towards the ceiling. Elbows are bent in that 90-degree angle. And you're going to let the low back arch to bring the tail towards the floor. And as you do that, push your elbows into the floor so that your chest starts to lift. Your lower back can leave the floor. The back of your head is pushing into the floor. And then just let that all release. So you release the push of the elbows and the head. So I'll explain that again. You can think about it like your pubic bone and your nose are moving away from one another. So just try that. Move your pubic bone and your nose away from one another. And as you do it, push the elbows down and let the whole back arch. The back of your head can press into the floor. And then let it release. Try it a couple times. It can be really small. Pubic bone and nose move away from one another, and you get to use the elbows to push down. And then pubic bone and nose come a little bit towards one another. And your whole back is extending. Yeah, great. Okay, let's release that for a moment. Pick your pelvis up, slide the roller out, slowly roll onto the flat surface, and just let your legs lengthen for a moment. Give your back a rest. Notice your breathing. Good. Bend your knees, stand your feet. So now without the blanket, just take one of your hands, your finger, index, middle finger, to your pubic bone in the front. Find your pubic bone. And then put the other hand on your nose. Find the tip of your nose. Okay, so these 2 points. Start to move them away from one another. And so your chin will move a little away from your chest and your low back will arch, and just a little bit, maybe like an inch or half an inch, and then bring them back to neutral and move those 2 points away from one another. Let the back of the head slide on the floor and bring them back to neutral. So that's more or less what we'll be doing on that blanket roll. We're going to try it again. Before we try it again with the blanket roll, come back to robot arms and feel what it's like to move the pubic bone and the nose away from one another, and press the upper arms, the elbows into the floor, and that might start to float your ribs, your mid-back up. Again, this can be small. We're letting the spine know that extension is possible. Great. So if you like doing it on the flat surface, just stay there. Otherwise, grab that blanket one more time here with the blanket under the low back. Maybe it's a little bit more clarified now. Bring your arms into that robot position. And you can think about the pubic bone and the nose traveling away from one another, the elbows pushing down. And you could imagine that one day you might come all the way up to the top of your head when you do this, when you arch the back, the chin moves away from the chest, and if you have a more slippery surface behind your head, you might be finding that the sticky mat is kind of keeping your head from moving super freely. But think that that's the direction we're going, as if you would be able to come to the top of the head. Great. Okay. Let that rest. Pick your pelvis up, slide the blanket out. Just bring your hands down to your low belly and let your knees rock gently, just side to side, a little windshield side to side. And then let that roll you to your side. So you can now take your blanket. We're going to put the blanket so that it is underneath our upper back. We're still in extension mode. We're still in backbend mode. So put the blanket across your mid-thoracic. So not right underneath where your armpits are, just slightly lower than that. Yeah, so your low ribs are not on the blanket. It's kind of mid-rib area. And take your arms overhead, the palms facing up. And now let your knees tilt to the left about 5 or 10 degrees. Keep your right foot connected to the floor and reach your right thigh bone a little bit longer. Feel how it pulls through you with the blanket roll under the upper back now. Do that a few times to this first side. So your knees tilt to the left and you feel the right thigh bone moves in the direction of the knee and the whole right side gets a little longer. Yeah, see if you can keep the back of your right hand on the floor. You might feel that right arm gets pulled a little bit. Could you actually lengthen your right arm when your right thigh bone reaches? So this idea of your right thigh bone and your right arm lengthening together simultaneously, we'll start to bring that into some of the other poses once we roll off the floor. Great. Rest in the middle for a moment. Reposition yourself if you need to. And let your knees tilt 5 or 10 degrees to the right. Feel your left thigh bone elongate away from the belly. And then come back to the center. And try that a few times. While your left thigh reaches a little longer, can you also feel your left arm get a little longer? That's right. So the knees tilt to the right, that left thigh, the left foot stays on the floor, that left thigh just reaches a little away from the belly as the left arm gets long, and then you come back. So you are activating that left arm. Yep. So when your knees tilt to the right and you reach the left leg longer, you're activating your left arm to be able to lengthen a little bit. A lengthening through that left arm. Okay, so let's come back to the middle, and you can play with that a little bit more. Make sure again that your blanket's in a good spot, and just interlace your fingers behind the back of your head. Let your elbows widen. And take a full breath in, expanding up in the chest area. Remember what that's like. And exhale when you need to. And again, breathing in, expanding the ribs wide, the chest forward and back. Good. And then just let yourself roll to one side. You can support the head with your hands. And we're going to come up to the hands and the knees. Okay, so coming to your hands and your knees, you have this memory of the blanket in multiple places along your spine, supporting the arch in the back. So breathing in, come to your cat spine right away, and just notice maybe there's a certain area of the spine that feels a little bit more supple from the blanket. And as you exhale, round the back, cat spine, pushing the floor away, letting your shoulder blades round and your head drop. And breathing in, arching. So when you come into your cow spine, that arched position, feel your pubic bone and your nose moving away from one another as much as they can. And then as you round the back, your pubic bone and your nose coil into one another. So you can bring those 2 points, the pubic bone and the nose, really into your attention right now, and just track them in space. Great, and then come to a neutral spine, turn the toes under, slowly press your way back to downward facing dog. Lengthening through the arms, and pressing the hands down and forward. Let your knees be slightly bent. And reach your pubic bone away from your nose. So the pubic bone will move back towards the wall that you can see right now. Pubic bone moves back and slightly up. And that's going to encourage a slight arch in your low back. Only because for most of us, that low back is a little extra rounded. So just see if that's possible to sense the pubic bone moving back and up. Tops of the thighs pressing back. Great. You're using the legs to take as much weight off of your arms, your hands as you can. Good. And slowly bring your knees down. So hands right underneath shoulders, knees underneath hips. Begin with very straight arms. Sink your sternum towards the floor. Allow your shoulder blades to come towards one another. And then opposite of that, push the floor away with your hands, widen your shoulder blades, and pull the sternum into the body. So move back and forth like that a few times, shoulder blade push-ups, letting the sternum come into the body as the shoulder blades widen, and sink the sternum to the floor, feeling the shoulder blades come towards the spine. You can kind of think about the shoulder blades like, sometimes a barn has doors that are on rollers, right? And they sort of slide or roll away from one another and then towards one another. And think of the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades are pretty flat bones. And so thinking of them really sliding, widening away from one another and then towards one another. Good. Okay, now can you find some kind of middle place for the shoulder blades? So you felt the depth of both directions. Find a middle ground. Now come to your lower back. Exhale and do a cat spine just in your lower back. And let your pelvis, your tail also move. But see if you can resist the cat spine in your upper back. So meaning that your lower belly will draw up and the lower back will round. Your tail curls towards the floor. Good. And just let that go, come to neutral. Just try that a couple times. So we're just trying to isolate the cat spine action in the low back. That doesn't mean your upper back isn't going to do some of it as well. But as much as you can, just try to keep the thoracic spine neutral. Mobilizing the action of the tail curling down and widen across the low back. Great. Okay, come back to neutral. Keep your pelvis where it's at. Walk your hands forward for dog in prayer. Plant your hands, bring your forehead to the floor. Firm the finger pads into the floor and lift the base of the wrist. Good. Now, can you feel your sternum dropping towards the floor? And simultaneously, in a very gentle, a light touch kind of way, think about doing cat spine with your lower back. But your sternum is still sinking towards the floor. And you're finding the breath, diaphragm widening towards the ribs. Good. Slowly come forward. Walk your hands back so the hands are underneath the shoulders. Left hand will stay where it's at. Left elbow stays straight. Bring your right hand behind your head. Stay looking down at the floor, but push the back of the head into your hand. Now turn your chest to the right. Lift your right elbow towards the ceiling. Keep the head pushing back into the hand. Good. Breathing in here. Just everyone pause here. Can you take the top of your sternum and lift it towards your chin while you're in this rotation? Good. Now, as you exhale, bring your right elbow to the floor or towards the floor. Can you do that keeping your left arm straight? So you get to move your ribs, you get to rotate more or less from the waist up. Maybe right elbow can touch the floor. And again, inhale, open, turn your chest to the right, lift the right elbow, let your head push back into your hand. And bring the right elbow to or towards the floor, keeping your left arm straight. One more time like that on this side. Inhale, open, turning chest to the right, let the head fall back into the right hand. Exhale, bring the right elbow to the floor. Okay, release that right hand to the floor, press back to child's pose. Soften the hands, any kind of effort in the arms for a moment. Feel the two sides of your neck. And if you can notice any differences. And inhale, come back up to your hands and your knees. So right arm will stay straight. The right shoulder blade has to mobilize though for this. So left hand comes behind your head. Push the head back into the hand. And breathe in, begin to turn your chest to the left, lift your left elbow and continue to push the head back into the hand. And feeling your upper back, your chest move into more of back bend mode. The right arm is strong, pushing the floor away. When you're ready, exhale, bring your left elbow to or towards the floor, keeping your right arm straight. Good. Inhale, open. Lifting left elbow, let the head fall back into the hand, even push back into the left hand. And now, as you bring your left elbow to the floor, try not to tuck your chin into your chest so your spine stays long. It's more of a rotation and a mobility in that right shoulder blade that'll get you there. That's right. Good. Different. Inhale, lifting left elbow again. Let the head fall back into the hand. And exhale, left elbow comes to the floor. It's a little bit of a puzzle. Great. Release that. Bring your left hand back down. Again, come back to child's pose. Let the forehead rest. And right away, turn the toes under, press back to down dog. And as you're in down dog, feeling what part of your torso, your back, your front, would appreciate your breath. So this idea that your diaphragm can change its shape. It's a muscle that can really shape shift in a way that then creates expansion in different areas of the body. So maybe you feel it in your low back that you'd like a little bit more fullness there. You know, you can take a breath in and try to direct that fullness toward your back. Of course, the air isn't going into your low back, right? That's not what's happening. But the diaphragm itself can shift so that there's a different kind of pressure. Okay, just take your feet wide as your mat in your down dog. Your feet are still parallel, they're just wider. Walk your hands back towards your feet so that you have more or most of the weight is fully on your feet and your arms can hang. Let your head hang. Knees can be softly bent if needed. And then see if you can take your hands outside of your feet. It might be fingertips on the floor. It might be that you can have the entire palm on the floor. Fingertips are pointed in the same direction as your toes. Let your elbows bend a little bit out to the side. And with the elbows slightly bent to the side, can you lift your shoulder blades away from the ear? So pull the shoulder blades up towards your back pockets. Feel the sides of the neck long and the full weight of the head hanging. Great. And then take your hands forward now so they're more underneath you. Heel to your feet so they're more hips distance position. Slowly take a breath in, come up towards a flat back. Hands can slide up the shins. Good. Exhale and fold forward. And inhale, come back up to that flat back. Bring your hands to your hips and just come all the way up to stand. Great. Okay, come on up to the top of your mat. And if you have blocks, you might bring those up towards the top of the mat. And we're going to use our strap here for one thing. Okay, so at the top of your mat, take your strap so that it's right behind your upper back, all the way up into your armpits. So it's the strap is coming forward out of your armpits. And then you hold the strap right in front of your armpits and your hands kind of cup underneath the strap. Yeah, and so you could push the strap forward and just make sure if you do that, it's not taking the shoulders and kind of caving the shoulders forward. So if you're pushing the strap forward, do the opposite. Pull your shoulders back and feel your shoulder blades. Yes, shoulder blades draw towards one another. Okay, and then just look out at the horizon. Slide your hands down the strap so your elbows are almost straight. You can still have a little pull on the strap. And then start to take the arms overhead, continuing to pull the strap. So now you're pulling the strap up. And you'll feel the strap across shoulder blades, some ribs. And allow the strap to help unstick that area. So there's a little sense of lift, almost like your ribs are being lifted out of your waist. But everything below your waist, can you let that feel heavy? Like it's hanging straight down. The strap is suspending the ribs and everything higher, and the arms are helping with that lift, the sliding of the ribs out of the waist. But the tail is heavy, the pelvis is heavy, the legs and the feet belong to the earth, and they're just dropping. So it's simple, but you're looking for that traction. So natural, letting gravity take the tail end of the spine. Yeah, good. Slowly let your arms come down, rest your hands in your arms so you can just kind of slide your hands back, let the strap drop for a moment. And take a breath in. Okay, we're gonna come back to that same position. So strap, slide it way up so that it comes right underneath your armpits. Slide your arms forward, your hands forward. Inhale, lift the arms up, giving it a pull on both ends of the strap. And slowly begin to bend your knees, taking your pelvis back, coming towards a chair pose. So the weight is a little farther back in your heels. The pelvis is heavy. The pelvis belongs to the earth again. But as your arms pull on the strap, there's a sense that you can slide the ribs up off the low back, slide the side ribs out of the waist. So we have a little grounded, heavy pelvis. That's it, and a lengthened, long side body. Good. Keep the reach of the arms, straighten the legs. Take one last breath in with the arms pulling the strap, and gently release the arms down. Just set the strap aside. Go ahead and fold forward into Uttanasana. Again, if you have your blocks nearby, you might want them. Okay, we're going to step the right foot back into a low lunge. So that back knee will come down, pad the back knee, grab your blanket if you need that. Good. So just kind of basic setup, make sure that front foot's fully grounded, and take your right arm up towards the ceiling. I'm just going to shift slightly diagonal so you can have a slightly better view here. So we've been doing a little bit of this reaching through the arm, right? And feeling the reach through the same thigh. So just take your right arm and reach it towards the ceiling. It might take you into a slight side bend to the left. So you're reaching the right arm towards the ceiling, and feel the pull all the way into your right hip, a little reach or stretch into the right hip. And can you just with your mind's eye feel that as you lengthen the right arm up, that the right thigh is also pulling opposite of that arm. I'm pointing with my finger, right? That right thigh is reaching to the floor. Yeah, and you can reach and then let go. And what about this idea of inhaling into the right side of the lung, the right side of the chest, biasing your inhale breath and really expanding into that right side chest as you reach through the arm. Yeah, nice. And then next time that you reach through the right arm, allow that side bend to happen, side bending slightly to the left, just pausing there. Great, easy, soft neck, feel the space behind your head, and letting the head gently fall back into that space. Good, release that, bring your two hands forward, framing your front foot, turn the back toes under, pick that back knee up, step forward, and just fold into Uttanasana for a moment. Feel the difference of the two sides of the waist. And then if you need your hands on blocks for this transition, stepping that left foot back, bringing the left knee down, coming again to this lunge position, bringing the left arm high. Good. And so just simply lengthening that left arm, letting the left arm get a little bit taller and allowing a slight side bending to the right as you do that. Feeling the connection of the left thigh as you reach the left arm a little longer. So that left thigh is also looking for the length. Yeah, the right side ribs have to yield. Right side ribs soften and fold. And then just maintaining the reach through the left arm. Maybe if you haven't already, feeling what it's like to try to breathe into the left side of the chest more. Staying with that side bend. Good. Great. Exhale, slowly let that release. Bring both hands back down, turn the back toes under, and this time press yourself back to down dog. Just noticing if anything's shifting at all in your down dog. Feel the pubic bone moving back. Great. And slowly bring your knees down. Okay, walk your hands around, swing the legs forward. We're going to come back onto the back. So come lie on your back with your knees bent. Okay, take your right arm overhead on the floor, the right palm facing up, and let your right knee fall to the right. So you can roll onto the little toe edge of the right foot and just let that right leg drop to the floor as much as it's willing. And you can let your pelvis tip to the right. Now just press your left foot into the floor and tip your pelvis even more to the right. And then let that go. And do that again. Push your left foot into the floor and let your pelvis tip even more to the right. Go ahead and let your head roll to the right as you do that. Yeah, good. And come back. Now bring your left hand to your right armpit, chest, in front of the right shoulder, somewhere in that region. And as you push your left foot into the floor, let your pelvis roll to the right, roll your head to the right, and slide your left hand up your right arm. Maybe that left hand can even slide beyond the right hand. And then reverse all that. You just let your left hand slide back to your right shoulder, and you bring the pelvis back. So try that a few times. Your left foot pushes, you tip the pelvis to the right, and your left hand slides up the right arm. Great. Now I'm setting us up to back bend. So as you slide your left hand up the right arm, turn your head so that you see your arms and start to move your pubic bone and your nose away from one another. So in other words, when you're the most on your right side, you can let your head and your tail move back and arch the back. And then when you come back towards your back, being on the floor, you're not quite in such a back bend. And then you tip your pelvis to the right and slide the hand up the arm. And let the front of you really open. Yeah, that's right. You might even let your head tip back and see the wall behind you. So the back of the head moves back. You open the throat, open the chest. Great. All right, let that release. Take your legs and your arms down. Pause for a moment. And just feel the way the two sides of you meet the floor. Do you know how you were breathing on that first side? Was there an expansion in the belly or a focus on one side of the chest? Maybe you have no idea how you're breathing, but you were just breathing. Okay, bend your knees again, stand your feet. So we'll start to move into the second side. So take your left arm overhead on the floor with the left palm facing up. And let your left knee tilt to the left so that you're on the outer edge of the left foot. And then first, just push your right foot into the floor to pick the right pelvis up, to tip the pelvis. You're tipping the pelvis to the left. And then come back to that home base place. So feel the power coming from the right foot. And as you do this tipping of the pelvis to the left, try it one time thinking of your belly, thinking of pushing your belly out, pushing your belly to the left and really protruding your belly as you do it. So that you begin to engage the muscles of the back, not just your right hamstring. And then bringing your right hand to the left side of your chest, armpit area. And as you roll your pelvis to the left, let your right hand slide up your left arm, turning your head to see the traveling right hand. And then reverse all of that. Seeing if reversing it can be smooth. And pausing before you begin again. Rolling the pelvis to the left, sliding that right hand up. And then starting to look for this back bend, feeling where your head is free to move back, where you can open, stretch the front of the spine. So moving the pubic bone and the nose away from one another as you're on your left side. The right foot pushes into the floor. The pelvis rolls to the left. The right hand slides up the left arm. And then looking for that possibility for a back bend while you're on the left side. Great. Slowly come all the way back onto your back. Take your right knee towards your chest again. Interlace your fingers at the top of the shin. And press your shin into your hands. Your hands are pushing back into the shin, but your arms will be fully straight. And maintain that push. It's an isometric push of your shins into your hands. And you'll likely feel that the lower back has now spread into the floor. Make sure you're breathing. You'll see if you can do a belly breath here. Good. Let that release. Pick up your left knee, interlace the fingers at the top of the left shin. Have the arms straight. And then push your shin into your hands and maintain that press. Allow your low back to spread towards the floor. Good. Let that release. Now take both knees, right hand, right knee, left hand, left knee, pulling the knees towards the chest, and then slightly widen the knees, like you're moving your knees towards your armpits. And fill the low back with your breath. Even though the floor is there, the lower back can only expand so much, but see if you can direct the movement of the diaphragm down as if there's like a tube in your low back that you're filling with air support. Great. Let that rest and just make your way to Shavasana. Grab whatever you need to be most comfortable. And just feeling how you meet the floor now. Sensation of your spine. All of the strong muscles across your back. I'm just going to start our Shavasana with a short reading from, he's a poet, David White. So much of our life is spent thinking about what we must do in order to follow what we have been told is a successful path in life. Much of the reward we desire for ourselves through that success has to do with being seen and being recognized as someone to be admired. But our great artistic, contemplative, and religious traditions focus on the inner nature of this recognition, of seeing and admiring and being proud of one's own path of integrity and what we have become. This self-recognition does not take the form of self-praise, but of self-embodiment. It seems to be achieved more through a path of undoing rather than doing, through a process of letting go of what is extraneous, of what takes enormous amounts of effort, and often what continues to make us unsettled and unhappy. So considering Shavasana and even this whole practice, this practice of undoing, moment by moment, sensing the body settling. Sliding your awareness into the interior of your spine. This long, beautiful structure that runs from your tail all the way to the space behind your eyes. And there may be parts of your spine that are easier for you to sense or image. And starting up at the top, this area behind your eyes, just straight back behind your eyes is your very first vertebra. And just sensing it dropping towards the floor. And travel your attention down the spine, one vertebra at a time. And it doesn't matter if you know all the vertebrae, just, okay, this area, there's one. And just getting the sense of a release towards the floor. You can let your fingers gently curl in towards your palms and bending the elbows, bending the knees. And when you're ready, slowly roll to your side and make your way up to a comfortable seat, bringing the palms together. And may you be free of inner and outer harm. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be healthy and strong. And may you care for yourself joyfully. Take a breath in. Exhale. Namaste.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the podcast class, please leave a quick review on iTunes, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Are you enjoying this podcast? I've chosen to offer these audio recordings freely for over 15 years. I do this because research shows yoga, yoga nidra, and Feldenkrais to be valuable practices, those which I would like to share widely. Dana, the Buddhist practice of generosity, has always been a pillar of my business. And more generally, Dana is the inclination to give without expecting any form of repayment. It does, however, take a fair amount of time, effort, and cost to maintain and keep the podcasts available. If you feel you've benefited from what you've learned from these classes, then please do consider making a contribution towards the maintenance and upkeep of the classes. It will help ensure that I can continue to offer the podcast classes freely and keep generating new material. Give what you can, give what feels good. If it's too little, it won't feel good. If it's too much, it won't feel good. Links to support the show monetarily can be found in the show notes. And other ways to give include sharing the podcast with others, leaving a 5-star rating and review, or just sending me an email with how the classes have affected you. Thanks so much.